You know, one of the delights in my home garden is being able to grow some fresh fruit, and particularly tree fruit. Now, I don't have a lot of space, so I have to kind of consider which tree fruit or tree fruits in my limited space would I want to have the most. And quite frankly, I don't think there's anything better than a peach that is ripened on the tree that you can just pick off, and so I chose a peach tree. And I wanted to kind of talk a little bit right now about what we want to be doing with the fruit, and particularly the peach tree or in the home orchard, to get it to produce that fruit that we want it to produce this year. And one of the things that I think is commonly overlooked by the homeowner is to keep some type of a spray program going, so you will have fruit that is at least partially worm-free and partially rot-free by the end of the season. Now, the peach tree that I have in my garden is Red Haven. It's a fairly early peach, and I chose that for two reasons. One, it's a good peach. I really like it. It's not my favorite peach. My favorite peach is the Loring, but the Red Haven is still a good peach, but it is an early peach, and so that means I don't have to spray all season long. But now is the time that you really want to start your first spray to maintain a good blemish-free, as close to blemish-free fruit as you would like to have for this season. And one of the first sprays that we want to put on is called the pre-pink or the pink stage of flower, and that is to prevent brown rot, which is the disease that gets on the fruit as it begins to ripen and cause that big brown soft spot on the fruit. And that brown rot is a fungus disease that's going to begin infecting the tree right now. And the first spray for brown rot, in which we'll be using Captan, is at the green tip stage where the leaf is just beginning to turn green, or at the pink stage where you're beginning to see some pink in the flower. And we see several flowers here that are beginning to show pink, and even on some of the parts of the tree, they're beginning to open a little bit. And what I want to use on this is a fungicide called Captan. And anytime we're using pesticides in the garden, one thing we really want to be sure to do is use the type of protective clothing that's going to help us prevent any contamination on our skin. And so I am putting the disposable gloves on as I begin to mix up my fungicide. I'm using Captan. It's a 50% wettable powder. And I like to make, when I'm using a wettable powder, what I call a slurry. And so I've got a little bit of water in this cup here. I'll put my Captan in there, 1 tablespoon of it. I want to mix that up with a spoon and make sort of a slurry out of that. Then I will pour that into my spray tank. Wash this out with a little more water. And notice I'm using a cup that normally might be used as a drink cup from someone, so I have put on there pesticide do not use. And even though I keep this out in my garden shed here, I certainly do not want anyone to ever pick this up and use it. And I think that's another just good tip for how we want to handle pesticides. I've put enough Captan in there for 1 gallon of water. So I'll go ahead and fill my tank up. This is a 2-gallon tank, so I'm going to fill it just about half full. I want to then shake it a little bit just to be sure that it's mixed up good. And then I simply will be sure to have a good cover on my tree. I don't like to spray when it's windy, and it is a little bit windy today. And so I'm just going to spray a little bit and then maybe perhaps wait another day, maybe tomorrow, and perhaps the wind will die a little bit. But I do want to be sure to let you know that when we do spray, we want a fine mist, as fine a mist as we can on the spray, because that's going to force that spray into those buds. And we want to be sure that we get the the tree branches, all the little buds, the green tips covered very, very well to prevent that first infection that we're going to get with brown rot with this Captan. A very, very important note that I want to caution homeowners about is that when we're spraying our fruit trees at this time of the year, we do not want to use an insecticide. This is strictly a fungicide for diseases. If we had an insecticide in this, then that would be very detrimental to any of our pollinating insects that are going to start coming in and pollinating these blossoms as they begin to open. So this is only Captan, only for the disease, which is the only problem we really have right now. Later on, if you have a home fruit orchard, you might want to use a spray referred to as a all-purpose fruit tree spray. Now this particular spray has Captan in it, but it also has 2 insecticides, malathion and 7, which will get rid of all of our insects that we want to use on the tree. But I recommend not using this particular spray at this time because it does have the insecticides in it. Then another thing we want to pay attention to in our home fruit orchard, and particularly on our stone fruits such as the peach and the pear, or the peach and the apricot and the nectarine, is borers. Borers is sort of an insidious insect. We really don't see the borer until we see the damage. And on this particular peach tree here, I've had some borer damage already. Down on the trunk there, you can see where one year I failed to get my borer control on, and I had some borer damage in there, and now I've got the scar on that trunk of that tree, and I think I got rid of my borers in time to where it's really not going to give me a major problem. But I do want to go in and start my borer control in about a month or 6 weeks from now, so I can get a good spray and a good control for borers. Many of the borer control products that we used to use that were very, very effective are no longer in the market. But there is one called pyrethrin, a 2.5% pyrethrin, will do a fairly effective job of controlling borers. And we want to be sure and start it from the time that tree is very, very young and continue spraying every year for borer control. Over here on the other side of my garden here, I have a young nectarine tree that I planted just this year. And I already see the leaves coming out on that, and so I want to be sure this year and start my borer treatment on this nectarine tree so that when it gets the age of my peach tree over there, I won't have the borer problems that I had with the peach tree. So, you know, I will encourage you to check out further information on controlling insects and diseases in the home fruit orchard by checking out the information sheets and the fact sheets available at your local county extension office.